Hey, book besties. Welcome to More Than a Book Club podcast. I'm your host, Leyna.
And I'm your other host, LJ. And before we get started, we should remind our listeners what we are reading this month,
What are we reading?
It is Sunrise. I know. I should go grab my daughter's copy because she's supposedly going to read it, and we have the physical copy. Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, and we are reading it for this month, and I've actually already started it.
I just love that right before I hit record, we were literally talking about the book.
We were.
Then I forgot what it was I was like, what are we reading this month? Crap.
I know, we were just talking about it, but we've got that so if you want to read along with us, that one actually is going to be published earlier than normal. So it'll be a week earlier, right? So
yes, and we are going to be recording early because we are going to have a special interview with a new author. Her name is Rebecca Wolf. She wrote the book Alive and Beating. So that's also going to be an exciting time for us to have not only Rebecca Wolf, but next week we're going to have Claire Sanama.
Mm-hmm.
I love in the book that she wrote, it's called Killer Story. She gives a name pronunciation guide for her name. I was like, I love this. I needed this. It's Sanama, like Panama, but it looks like Saint Amant.
Yes.
So very different. So I was very happy to have that guide for how to say her name.
Well, so I haven't looked at my physical copy in detail like that, but I listened to it. And so in it, she does mention, and I'm going to bring this up probably. I told you and I told our listeners before, I thought she said Sandoval. And she said that in there in her audiobook.
Yes.
That people think it's that. And I was like, justified right here, that I thought that's what she was saying at first, but it was not. So anyway, but we got her next week. We've got Rebecca Wolf at the end of the month. So the next to last episode of April, because we're having author April, we will have our Sunrise on the Reaping discussion. So you don't have as much time as usual. So get on it, guys.
Snap up that copy. Go pick it up from your local bookstore. Get it on Audible. You can find it wherever. But we hope that you do go and read that book with us. It will be good. I'm currently, trying very hard to read through the Hunger Games series. I've got one down and I'm like, this may not happen. I don't know. I'm most of the way done with Catching Fire.
Okay.
So that's kind of my goal. I'm going to my kids' robotics tournament this weekend.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So their robotics tournament, it's 5 hours to Houston for one thing. So I'll be in the car. So I have a little bit of listening time there. I do plan to talk to my husband. That's kind of important too. Keep him awake since I can't drive. I do plan to, while they're at their competition, it'll be like they compete and then they have an hour break. So I will have time to read for sure. And this is exciting. I'm very excited. My birthday was on Monday. And I got a Kindle.
You did? You see it? Yay! Is it the Kindle signature? You don't know.
I have no idea. Okay. I'm like, it's a Kindle. It's a thing.
Okay. Is it bigger than the one I lent you?
I have not looked.
You need to look, which I forgot to get that from you also.
I know. I've literally had it in my purse. We had book club on Sunday. So we're recording a little bit earlier because I am going to be traveling whenever we typically record. But we did have our book club, so we can talk about what we've been doing literary lately. Our book club had read James, and I had my mom there, so that was fun. Got to meet my mom. You got to meet my mom, and then we also got to talk about James, and she got to hang out with everybody, and she got to help our friend Allie do some ancestry stuff because my mom's really big into genealogy, and Allie was all about that. So it was a fun book club, and no one had got the part that I did about the songs. I was like, yes,
I know.
I got one over on them.
I know. I was like so excited for you because I was like, I wonder if anyone's going to know.
It's a big win. It's a big win.
It is a big win. So yeah, so you're still working through Hunger Games.
Yes.
And
I'm still reading Killer Story. I'd say about halfway done. Okay. And then reading Alive and Beating, which is Rebecca Wolf's story. So I have the authors that we're going to be reading. So I have
good job.
have those that we're doing. I finished Anne of Avonlea, like literally on book club day. I was like, okay, I'm good. And I guess that's kind of where I am right now. I do plan to keep going on Hunger Games if I can. That's my
Yeah.
goal. We'll see if
I
I get
bet you
there.
can. I bet you can.
Well, I think one of the problems is that I'm listening to it on audio from Libby,
Mhm.
and the next book, Mockingjay, currently has a wait time of like 3 weeks.
Oh, no.
So
Yeah,
I
that's gonna mess
may
things
miss
up.
the last one. I had already given myself permission. If I can't get to it, I'm going to read these two because everybody says they hate the last one. And I have read them
Yep.
before. It's just been a hot minute. So
Yeah, you're not missing anything. The last one sucks. So I'm just saying. I'm just
I
saying.
remember the very end, but that's about it. So
Yeah, and the end sucks.
that's what I
So,
remember. I remember it being very sad.
yes. Yes. Well, I did some reading this weekend. I read a Geneva Rose book because as much as I did not love the perfect, what is it? The new one's coming out is The Perfect Divorce, and I'll probably read it. But The Perfect Marriage, I did not love it. I read another one of her that I liked better, but I will say Home is Where the Bodies Is. I really enjoyed it. I thought
Okay.
it was good. I mean, I will say I think it's easy to figure out her twists so far, and that's fine. But I thought this was a very fast-paced book, and I had it because it came out last year. And then I do have, what is the one? You Shouldn't Have Come Here. That is the one that came out the year before that. So I'm probably going to read that soon. I was just looking to see what other books she had, and it turns out she has written a rom-com before.
Really?
And yeah, I had no idea. And she has announced that she's writing this new like zombie romance, something like all these genres in one book that's coming out, I think, in August. And she's like, my dad always wanted me to write a zombie book, but I don't think this is what he had in mind. But anyway, but I was like, okay, I can get on board with that because I love her so much. And I keep seeing videos of her and she is pregnant, like twirling
She has
around
the
Target.
cutest baby bump, too.
She does. And she is just adorable, just twirling through Target and Walmart and signing copies of her book. And so I'm just like, I just love her. So I will say that I am glad to say that Home is Where the Bodies Are. I gave it 4 stars. So that's better. The other ones I read, I think I gave 3 stars. I did finish Killer Story and I loved it. And since then, I have watched two 48-hour episodes that she produced. And I will tell you, one of them did not take place in Texas because it was a case that when I went through her IMDb, I was like, oh my gosh, I know this case. I want to see these players because, Leyna, I'm sure you have not heard of it, but there
So
was a,
if it's been in the news, I might have heard of it because I'll read stories that pop up sometimes. I just don't go
well,
in depth all the time. But
it was
you
from
are
like,
in a different sphere
I
of
am in a
true
different sphere.
crime.
It was from like 2014, so I don't know, but in another state. But as Todd Colehep was a realtor, and they discovered a woman locked in a shipping container on his property, like chained in there. And turns out he had killed her boyfriend. He had killed another couple the year before. And then once he's in custody, he confesses to killing these people in a cold case that had happened at a motorbike shop in their small town. And so I had heard this story first. I heard it on 2 different podcasts. I heard it on Crime Junkie and Moms and Murder, which they might have changed their name. I don't know what that one is, but I feel like because their Facebook group changed names. So I'm not sure if it's Moms and Murder or like Moms and True Crime or something like that. But I had heard about this case from both of them. And so when I saw she had an episode, I was like, oh, I got to do that one. So I did that one first. And then I did one from the book, which I think 50%. And you've heard about the one where like the 2 doctors like had a murder for hire plot or something.
Yes.
So that one, I watched that episode. It was crazy. And as I was watching, I was like, I'm pretty sure I've seen some of this video before. So I must have heard of it, or it must have been like on TikTok or something, you know? So anyway, so I've
I do
done
think
that.
in the book she does talk about like sometimes CBS will have like
Hmm.
local feed. And since that was a local
Yes.
case, they might have had some of the just
Yes, shared and
rolled footage and then shared it with them.
exactly. And so then in other literary news, I started Schindler's List because on Saturday I had the crazy idea because I was like, that's a movie, that's a book. Maybe you can get it read by the time you record and see if the book is better or the movie. I did not finish it. I've read like 50 pages and I don't know. Here's the thing so far, like it's much more detailed, obviously, so far, but the movie is just so good and the music makes the movie that I'm like, I feel like it's gonna be a both. But we'll see. But I also have to share something that Leyna knows. I texted screenshots to her earlier.
Oh, yeah.
So
I was like, you
my
have to bring that up.
yeah, my cousin, my sweet cousin Leslie, sent me a text that she's all caught up on our 20 episodes. So I took a screenshot and sent that to my mom. And I was like, isn't that so sweet? And then she wrote back, wow, sure makes me look bad. So shout out. So Claudia knows. Claudia knows that. And so, yes, I'm pretty sure that of the people that I know, besides Leyna, I think that Leslie is the only person that I know in person that has listened to all 20 episodes. And she really is the sweetest person in my family, just so you know.
I do know my sister is listening to them. I don't know if she's caught up, but I will say she's probably pretty close because one of the episodes, she paused it and texted me and was like, oh, the movie you were talking about was this. And I was like, yes.
That is.
And she knew exactly what movie I was talking about just based on what I was saying. So.
Well, see, I was going to guess that your mom was all caught up until she said on Sunday, she was like, I'm a little behind. But I'm like,
so
I know she comments a lot.
Yeah. So she, I think, listens sometimes, but she moved and had some stuff going on. So she was kind of behind.
I mean, Claudia's only listened to like 2 episodes. So, I mean, her mom's doing great.
This weekend, my mom spent the weekend with me because my husband and kids were at a robotics competition. And she started reading Frozen River. And she read the whole book. Started it Thursday, finished it Sunday. And she was like, that was an amazing book. So she was like, that book totally held my attention, captivated me, made me want to go
awesome.
like keep going. And I was like, those are the books that you just, they stick with you. And she loves historical fiction and she loves like autobiographical fiction.
Yeah.
And I was like, this book is perfect because it has the elements of the past, but it also has a little bit of narrative fiction in there. So it was a really good book.
It is such a good book. I loved it.
And it was exciting that she finished a book and had such an enjoyable time with it. So
I know it was so funny because Leyna was texting us beforehand, like, she's almost done. And so as soon as she got there, we're like, and you were like, she didn't get to the part, which we're not going to spoil the part because we're not talking about that book today. But if you know, you know. So anyway, by the time she got to book club, we're like, did you get there? Did you finish? And she had.
Did you finish? And she was like, it wasn't that shocking. I was like, what?
I know.
It's like, it was shocking.
Oh my gosh, right?
Maybe
like,
it was just shocking to us.
I know. It's so funny. So funny. But yeah. All right. Are we ready to talk about what we're here to talk about? Leyna, I'm so excited. What is it?
This is LJ's topic. This is movies that are better than books. And she has been so excited to talk about this. And I agree. We're going to have some good conversations. I had a hard time picking movies and books. And I was like, usually I like the book so much better that I struggled with this.
And I got to tell you, I had bullet points. And so I just changed it to numbers instead of bullet points because I was like, I wonder how many I have on this list. And this is actually, I think this is a pretty impressive list. I have 31, but there might be a couple of repeats.
So I only have like 5 or 6. So we might be going off of your list and just discussing it. So that might be.
It's fine. Why don't.
It's going to work.
Okay. Why don't. Since I have so many, I'll start with one. Okay. And I'm not going to talk about all of them. I'll do what I do. Like when we're done discussing, I'll just list out whatever I haven't said on the list.
This is like Christmas whenever, I don't know if your family does this, but one person opens a present and the next person opens a present and the next person, everybody watches. Yes. And when you get to the kids, they have so many presents. And so then you're like, okay, you open like 6 presents and I'll open 1. You open like 6 presents. So that's what we'll do today.
All right, so I will start with one. And the one I'm going to start with, I have a feeling that a lot of people might not know that there is a book. I believe the book was written actually after the movie because the movie is a cult classic. And yes, I am talking about The Princess Bride. So I think the book was written because you know how in the movie he's reading the book to his grandson, except the book version is just awful. It's just not good. I tried. I read the whole thing and I was like, am I misunderstanding? And it's like it ruined the whole story.
I will say I love the movie. That's like one of the best movies. And I hadn't watched that till I was an adult.
Really?
I I was married to Derek, and he was like, "What do you mean you haven't watched this?" And maybe I did, and I just don't remember it. But I remembered
Yeah.
zero of The Princess Bride. And
That's so
whenever
funny.
we were watching it for the first time, I'm like, "This is a really good movie. Why why don't I remember this?"
Right? And so, like, that's one where I remember where I was when I watched it. It was one of my dad's girlfriends had it like, and I say one, he had one at a time as far as I knew. This was just before, in between my mom and my stepmom. So she had it recorded on a VHS, and I spent the night one time with them at her apartment, and we watched it, and I just fell in love. Like, I wanted, was it Carrie Elwes? Like, I wanted Wesley to be like my love
As you
interest
were.
and save me. Yes. And then even still today, I love, my gosh, I
Oh,
don't
it's
remember
As
what
You
his name.
Wish, not As You Were.
As You Wish, yeah.
Yeah.
As You Wish. And then I can't remember his name, the short guy that
Oh,
gets
I don't
murdered
know
with the
his name.
four.
He's in Clueless.
Yeah, he's in Clueless and he's also
He's the
in Young
teacher.
Sheldon. Yeah, he's in Young Sheldon and in lots of things. He's actually in the Cosby Show too a long time ago, but I can't remember his name right now. But anyway, I love him and I love Mandy Patinkin, which if you
I
don't,
love him, and he's so funny. Him and his wife are both
oh my gosh, I
just so
love
smart,
them.
so funny. Yeah.
They're hysterical. I love like when their son will quiz them
Hmm.
on pop culture things and his mom especially has no idea.
Yep.
And they're just the cutest thing ever and I love him. And so that in case you don't know, that's Inigo Montoya. You killed my father, prepare to die. That is who we're talking about. And so there's just such a good cast. Like Billy Crystal's in it, if you don't know that. And oh, I forgot her name from Taxi and who plays the girl in that. You know what I'm talking about. I
Yes. And
cannot think
she's
of her.
later in Kimmy Schmidt,
Oh, she is? Okay.
Unbreakable.
Oh my goodness, cat, stop. The cat is back. But anyway, yeah, so it's such a good movie. And it was so disappointing when I found out there was a book. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. And it just wasn't. So,
So does the book just go into just the plot of the movie, but
yes.
without the,
Yes, it's supposed to be the book that the grandfather's reading,
okay.
except it gets kind of existential at times. And it's just like, I don't know what you were trying to do here, but whatever it
It
was
didn't work.
disappointing. It did not work, which was just so sad because it should have.
I'm
It really
curious when
should
it
have.
did come out.
Are you going to look it up?
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay, while you look it up, I'll do another one because we know I have 31. Another one. I should have prefaced all of this that I used to be a person who was always like, must read the book first before I watch the movie. And then, kind of as an adult, I realized that if I see a movie first and read the book after, I typically like both. But if I read the book first, it's really only like a 40% chance that I am going to enjoy the movie. So now these days, unless it's like a series or something, I typically don't read the book first. Like obviously Harry Potter, I did all those and Twilight books and all that, but I don't necessarily do that anymore. So I will say that some of these though are ones where I saw the movie first and then read the book and then still either didn't like the book or didn't like it as much as the movie. So the next I'm going to talk about, well, did you get our answer?
It was written originally in 1973,
So it was before the movie. Okay,
before the
maybe I
movie.
got confused. So yeah, no, the movie's way better. Just trust me on that. Okay, so another one that I will say is the Jane Austen Book Club, which that movie I didn't know was based on a book when I saw it. And I don't remember when this movie came out. It was maybe like 2007 or I think it was 2007. That sounds about right. And the reason I say that is because that movie, I had a few friends that watched it and we decided we wanted to do a mother-daughter Jane Austen book club and we'd each hosted at a different person's house, just like they did in the movie. And we each had a book that we picked. And so we did that. And it was a lot of fun. And so I know we did it. And the only reason I know we did it that summer because I was living with my parents with Gavin while my husband was deployed. So that was a lot of fun. So that inspired us. But the movie, I love the movie. It's still one of my favorite movies. I would say that that's one that I watch at least a couple times a year. And then when I found out it was based on a book, so what we did is we read all of the Jane Austen books and then we read the Jane Austen book club last. And The book, I mean, there were some similar things, like, obviously, the movie was based on it, but it was way more depressing, and whereas the movie is, despite heavy topics, is very delightful if you haven't seen it, and so that is one that I always think of, that one is just, like, 1,000 times better than the book. The book was way too depressing, and I'm sorry to the author because clearly I love your story. That was turned into one of my favorite movies. Anyway, your turn.
So the first one that I have, I read this book after watching the movie, and I love the movie, and I think most of America loved the movie. And then I read the book, and I was like, how did they get that movie out of
From this
that
book?
book?
Okay.
So it's Forrest Gump,
Oh,
and
yeah, I've heard that.
it is totally different. One, the book writes Forrest Gump as kind of like a large, heavyset guy, very clear mental issue, like
Yeah.
low IQ. And while Forrest Gump is presented as someone with a low IQ, he at the same time has a lot of intelligence and is able to do
Mhm.
some of these things. And it made it more, I don't want to say believable. I felt like in the book, he was just kind of a dumpy guy, and the
Yeah.
movie made him seem like a real person. I
Yeah.
don't even know. I don't even know how to describe it. It was,
There was
it
more
felt like
depth?
it felt like a different book, like a whole different
Story.
thing.
Okay.
And I struggled to finish it. And I loved the movie. I mean, the movie was amazing. And part of
Yeah.
it could have been too. I mean, the movie had such an amazing soundtrack
Yeah, it
that
did.
took you back to those times. And I think that there were some parts inserted that kind of felt culturally relevant, and
Mhm.
you felt like you were in that era, whereas the book, I just felt like it fell flat. And I was reading some reviews of the book because I'm like, I know this people had to like it because they made a movie out of it. And there was several people that had the same reaction that I did. So I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one, but it does make me wonder how they got from point A to point B, because it did
Mhm.
not feel at all like the
Right?
same product.
Well, so I have not read the book, but I started the book years ago. And so I actually have that written. I have a little short list of books I started but didn't finish and love the movies. And that is one I put there because I remember, like, and he was like cussing and stuff.
Yeah, it
Like,
just totally different personality,
mhm.
just way different. It did not feel like the same person.
It did not, and I was like, "That's why we love Forrest Gump because we
Mhm.
love him," and because I know we talk about ti all the time, like, there are TV shows where, like, the main character is not why you watch the show, it's all the side characters, but no, in Forrest Gump, you love Forrest more than anyone. I mean, don't
And
get me wrong,
everybody's
Lieutenant
rooting for
Dan,
Forrest. Yeah.
everyone's rooting for Forrest, but yeah, the book from the start, I was like, I don't like Forrest," so I did not finish that one.
Yeah.
So
I finished it, but I wish I didn't. I wish that was a book that, so I used to not DNF books, and now
yeah,
I'm more like, okay, I'm just going to put this aside for a little bit, wait for it, read it later, maybe if I want to, if I have the time.
yeah,
Like I told my mom this weekend, I was like, there is not enough life to read crappy books. So
yeah,
if you find a book that you're just in love with, read more of those. Like put the book
yes.
down if it's not your favorite,
Mhm.
set it aside, come back to it later. But there are some books that that's going to be a good book. And this was not one of
Absolutely.
them. This is one
No.
of them that I would encourage people, put it down.
Okay, so I have a question. Have you seen the Disney made-for-TV movie Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken?
No. So this is
It's about
another issue.
horse diving.
I think you have watched a lot more movies than
I think that's it too.
I have.
I think so too. I think that's part of it. I would say I would agree with that. Well, so there was a Disney's made-for-TV movie with Gabrielle Anwar, Michael Schofling, who was Jake Ryan from 16 Candles. There are other famous people in it, I am sure. There's definitely a guy from Dead Poets Society, the redhead kid. He's in there. And so the story, based on a true story of this girl, Sonora Webster, in the Great Depression. She wants to become a horse diver. She sees like an ad in a magazine. And so she goes out and tries out and does it and gets to do it. And then has an accident because they like run up a ramp and then the horse like dives into like a pool and she hits the water one time with her eyes open and she ends up going blind because her retina separated. And then she continued to be able, she like managed to dive again. And so she was able to dive like that. Well, those types of shows stopped, being part of like vaudeville or whatever. And so eventually, like, she actually, this is not in the movie, she ends her life like working at a hotel, and I think her husband did too. And it actually is kind of a sad ending to her life. Like, they don't ever have kids or anything. Well, I read her book. I saw that it was based on her memoir. So I am telling you, this was maybe like 10 years ago. I had to like scour the internet to
For this book.
find her memoir, to order a physical copy and wait like weeks for it to show up. And I did. And I am glad that I read it because it's her story. But and so it's just so, it's kind of sad to see that end. But that's why I'm like, the movie is so hopeful because we end on like, and she got to continue diving, like, spoiler alert. So, but the movie is just delightful. Like, definitely recommend watching it, even as an adult, if you get an opportunity. It is so good. But the book, I love her. If you can find it, I mean, she's dead, so never mind. It wouldn't really support her, so you don't have to buy it.
It'll support
But
her estate.
I mean, does that even work like that? I feel like it
I have
doesn't.
no idea.
Well, I don't remember what the years. There's a certain amount of years before a book goes
Becomes public
into,
domain.
yeah, like, and that's like a book. If a bookstore's selling it, technically the bookstore's making profits and not the author or the author's family. So anyway, all right, back to you. Unless you want me to do 2 for every one of yours.
Do 2 for everyone.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay. Here's what I will say. And we kind of talked about an iteration of this weekend. Okay. Every single movie adaptation of Alice in Wonderland is better than the book. Every single one. Cartoon, yes. Made for TV miniseries, yes. The movie with Helena Bonham Carter, yes. Everything. I don't care.
That one. I want to.
It was good.
My kids were like, nah.
No, it was good. The best one, though, and technically it's not a movie, but if you watch it all at once, it is. It's a mini series from 1985, and it has like everyone in the movie. And I'm going to forget, we went through this list on Sunday too. We were looking it up. So it's got Pat Morita, that's the Karate Kid, the Mr. Miyagi. It's got Sherman Hemsley from The Jeffersons. It's got John Stamos, Scott Baio. Who else is in there? Patrick Duffy, Shelley Winter. Who else? So many people. Ringo Starr, like Beau Bridges, Lloyd Bridges, his dad. Who else? Carol Channing. Like, it is ridiculous. And the Jabberwocky is terrifying despite the fact that it looks very fake. But it is terrifying. So I'm just going to say every single version in the movie form, having not seen them all, is better than that movie, than that book. Just saying. The end.
So I'm going to come out with a children's book too.
Ooh.
So this one, I loved this book as a kid, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Okay.
You read it?
I have read it.
Okay. So the idea of raining food sounded wonderful, and I loved the whole idea of it, and I was just enthralled. And so when they announced they were making a movie, I was like, okay, like, I'll go see that. That's going to be great. And then I went to the movie and I was like, what was that? And it was nothing like the book. Like, it had the concept of food coming down, food weather, but the book didn't really have much of a plot other than, hey, food's raining down, and then they move away and it's all good. But the movie ended up being one of my favorite kids movies. And maybe this is just because I've watched it like a million times with my kids and it has like sentimental value now.
Yeah.
But the main character, Flint Lockwood, he is just so funny. He's a scientist, and his dad is in the sardine business because the whole town is into sardines, and he's trying to bring good food to the town. So he creates this weather thing, but he's a good inventor, has very poor execution. And so it goes off the rails. And if you've seen it, you probably know there's several sequels, I think.
Oh, really?
The first one is my favorite, but yeah, it's a very good movie. It's fun. It's funny. I laugh at it. My kids laughed at it. We still laugh at it. My kids argue over what to watch every morning. So we watch TV while we're eating breakfast. And my son is at the age where he's like, I want to watch South Park. And my daughter wants to watch medical dramas. And my son's like, I don't want to watch somebody get cut open while I'm eating breakfast. My daughter's like, well, I don't want to hear bad words in the morning. So we kind of go back and forth. So we've been watching, I took the remote and I've been watching old movies that they liked when they were little.
Oh, I love it.
So we're watching Gravity Falls this morning, but Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is one that's going to come up.
I love it. I
It's
love it.
a good one.
So I'll go with the food theme for one of the two that I'm going to do now because and the reason I picked both of these is that I think they were from different decades. Like one was from the 90s and one was from the early 2000s. And I would say they both appeared to be really popular with adults and then they were turned into movies. So the first one I'm going to say is Fried Green Tomatoes, which technically the book is Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe. And I know this is kind of a hot take because the movie is just delightful. It is sad, but it is also delightful. The reason it's a hot take is that the movie removes the lesbian relationship between the main characters. But I will say, having now read the book, it's very subtle in the book. And I would say, I think when you watch the movie, like you at least believe that Iggy is in love with her. So like, I don't know. And so I get that, but it was like the early 90s
I
because,
think that to make it mainstream, they took
yeah,
that out. And I can see that at that time not being something that would be accepted.
right.
And the movie was already talking about,
Race
I mean,
issues and murder.
murder, race issues, exploring. I was thinking about exploring the female anatomy.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never read the book, so I've heard it's different. But Kathy Bates
Oh
kind of
yeah, I forgot about
exploring
that. Yeah,
herself and
that's
wrapping
true.
herself in the saran wrap, like it's a
I know.
hilarious movie. And all these parts where she's trying to put herself out there for her husband
Mhm.
and that. So in my mind, there's so much going on that's already kind of
Yeah.
pushing this topic. And Kathy Bates being a larger woman,
Yes.
bigger bodies were taboo, like so taboo in
Yeah,
the
they
in the
totally were.
90s. And I
Yeah.
think, there's a lot more body acceptance now, but back then that was like
Hmm.
a big thing. So I think there were so many things going on in that already. I can see why they didn't add that in there because they wanted to
Yeah.
make it mainstream.
Right. And like even like them having like her talking about menopause and stuff like that, like all of those things, I think me back as a kid, I think that's the only movie that
Yep.
I saw where it even talked about that. So, no, I totally agree that they were already challenging all these other things. But I think that's why I just said it would be a hot take. The book is good. It's not a bad book, but the movie, just the cast is so phenomenal. They really bring the characters to life. I will tell you, and I already knew this because my mom had read the book before she saw the movie, they do change the ending in the movie. And so, for like a 30-second spoiler, if you don't want to know because you're planning to read the book, but here we go. So at the end of the movie, they kind of leave it open ended that is this woman that she's been talking to really Iggy, but in the book, she's not. It's
Oh,
just so like she really is who she says she is in the book. But I like that ending. I think that was a good change, just to be like, well, maybe we'll see her today, and she's like, you know,
maybe.
is
Yes.
this thread good? So anyway, so the other one I wanted to put there that was like from the early 2000s, and I did read it. I don't know if I read it in college. I feel like I did. My roommate did, but Bridget Jones' Diary. That one
Yes.
and don't get me wrong, the book is fine. Like it was a clever concept for a book. It was written in diary form and it really was similar to the like some of the entries are in the movie. But I think the movie is just delightful. Now, I do not agree
So
that
much
she is
better.
overweight. I do not agree
No,
that she's
no.
overweight in any capacity. I remember watching that and like when she's like upset to weigh 136 pounds. And I
And
remember
I'm
the
like,
time being,
what the
yeah,
hell?
right, right. So I'm just like, you're crazy. But
I
anyway,
was I was a
whatever.
teenager who weighed 150 pounds from the time I was 13 years old till I was like 20. And then I gained more weight. But it was one of those things where I thought that I was just this horrible obese person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, looking back now, I'm like, I was actually in a healthy weight range for my height.
Mhm.
And I was
Yep.
actually just perfect. And I had all this horrible self image and
Yep.
self, doubt about my own body. And I
Mhm.
think that kind of attitude perpetuated that because
It did.
I mean, it devastates you whenever you're looking at that and you're like, well, if that's the case, then maybe I'm not. But I mean, I have to look at it and say maybe she was shorter because I think height does make a difference.
Even
But at
looking
the
at
same time,
her, she
she is
looked
not a fat
good.
person. Yeah.
She looked so good.
Yeah.
So, whatever. People are stupid. But and that was relevant to the time though, based on what we saw the Photoshop models and everyone they just wanted everyone to be a stick. And then I remember being in the relationship with my ex-husband, and he was like, like curves are good. All right, your turn.
Okay. So LJ might fight me on this one.
Oh, here we
So
go.
put up your dukes. Jurassic Park. The movie was so much better than the book. And I liked the book. I felt like seeing the dinosaurs in person, not in person, but on the screen,
yeah,
it
on the screen.
brought that to life so much more, and it put the stakes so much higher for me. Reading it, I couldn't quite get there. Like, I enjoyed it. I loved the concept, the plot, the way that they're doing things. I just felt the movie was better. I felt the characters they chose for the cast were spot on. I mean, I can't think of his name, but the guy from Seinfeld, Newman.
Nedry, Dennis Nedry.
Yeah, he is perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I also, just the whole cast. Laura
No,
Dern, I think, is perfect.
it's a very well done cast. And so here's the thing. So what y'all don't know, but Leyna knows because I told her, I saw her notes, and her notes are so funny because it said there's like a note next to that says, LJ, fight me. And so here's the thing. So I saw that, and I've been thinking about it because I was like, if I had to pick one. And so in all honesty, because I am such a huge fan of both that book, The Lost World, and the entire franchise, that having read them multiple times, having watched them all at least a couple of times a year as well, I see them so differently because, yes, the first the first two movies were based on books. And the first movie tried to stick as close as it could, but we have to understand too, they did not have the same filming capabilities. Like CGI was not,
Right.
was like in its
Oh,
very
the
beginning
paperclip
stage.
Clippy guy.
Oh my, right,
The
right.
DNA.
The DNA guy looked just like Clippy. And so there it was very limited to what they could do. And so they did what they could. What I would love to see a mini series of the actual Jurassic Park book where they are stick more closely to it. What I can say, because I'm obsessed with the franchise, is that they did, as they got more capabilities in filming, they added elements in the different movies. So, for example, in Jurassic Park 3, they did have the whole thing with the aviary, whereas there was not a huge scene with that, but they do go through it. Like there's like a little river that goes around the park, and they're on a raft going down it. And so they have that. There also is a scene in that movie, in the book, the first book, where they're behind a waterfall and the T-Rex is coming after them. Well, they put that in the second movie, whereas that situation was in the first book. And then with the second book, it's so different. But again, I see like there was a big scary thing with like a dinosaur that could camouflage. Well, they did that in the first Jurassic World movie. So I can see how they did that, but I see them as such separate entities. Like it's like the bare bones are the same, but I get that. Like, I remember I read them both after I saw the movies. And so the movies are always going to hold a special place. But I'm not mad at you for saying that.
We can still
I'm
be
not,
friends.
because I love the movie. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
insulted. I love them both. And I feel like this is going to be a year that I reread the Jurassic Park books.
And
But,
I will say they redid a couple of Michael Crichton's books into
uh-huh,
movies, and some
yes.
of them just did not land at all. Sphere, not the same. I love the book
What's
way
the
more.
one? Oh my gosh, what's the one with the monkeys? That was so bad.
Uh,
Congo?
Out,
Is Was it
didn't he do
Congo?
Outbreak?
No, he didn't do Outbreak. That movie's freaky. But no, the Congo. I watched that in 2020. Why did I watch that in 2020? I think he did Congo, and like the book is actually kind of creepy. The end, he lost us in the end, but the movie is so ridiculous. Having these scary monkeys. The Wizard of Oz made scarier monkeys. Which if we're going to talk about Wizard of Oz, I'll put a couple of these together too. The Wizard of Oz, I have read the first book with my children, and it is nothing like the movie for the most part. So I would say the movie is a bajillion times better. And I will say the one that I wanted to pair with that one is also Mary Poppins. The first book is, I mean, they're like, again, these are like, you have some of the bones of the story, the structure, but overall, they're just not as delightful as the actual movies. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on those because those are ones that I probably would have just listed. But that made me think of that because have you read either of them?
I have not.
Don't.
I've seen Mary Poppins a couple of times.
Yeah, especially that one. Don't read that one.
It wasn't something that I think I watched it as a kid once or twice, and then we did it for like
Oh, the movie
ballet.
is so good.
And
Anyway, sorry.
I just remember seeing it a couple times, and I could
Don't read
probably
the book.
tell you what happened, but that's about it. I don't really
Oh my
remember much
gosh.
about it.
I know it back and forth. So, but don't, the book is not as good. So if you're going to do anything, just rewatch the movie because I love Dick Van Dyke. I love all of the cast. I love the mom who then is in While You Were Sleeping. She's the grandma. That I don't drink anymore. I don't drink any less either. Love her. Anyway, all right. Back to you, I guess, because
Back to me.
back to you.
Practical Magic.
Oh
That
my
was
gosh, I
one
agree.
I read. I think I read it for the first time because everybody talked about how good the books were and oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And I read the book and I was like, no, like, what were you thinking? And it made me question a lot of things about what people have told me about good books because I was like, how is that a good book? It was a horrible book. I wanted to put it down like a couple chapters in and I forced my way through it because I'm like, it has to get better. It didn't. The movie, though, it's cast so well. I loved it. It felt different.
It does. It's so like the book is more depressing. Like, and I get it. Like, I do think what I do, I will give them. I feel like in the movie, they did such a good job of the tragedy of the curse and like Sandra Bullock, like seeing her have to go through that. Like, I think they did all of that very well. And then there are dark themes in this movie. The book, it was just like dark and depressing.
Yes. And it
Like there was
wasn't,
no
there was
delight.
no redeeming qualities to it. And I
No.
didn't understand how
I didn't
everybody
like the
loved it so much.
characters.
Yeah.
I didn't like the sisters.
They seemed very one dimensional and
Yes.
did not have real growth. Like I just
Mm-mm.
didn't care for him. It was like,
So
here's the history of these two sisters.
so the same month I think that I got that from Book of the Month one month and I think there's like a prequel and I got that one too and then after I read that I was like I don't even care to read the prequel. Like if the
And
prequel
I
is
think
anything like this,
that's what
it's not going to
started
be
me
good.
wanting to read it was because I was like, oh, she has a new book coming out and everybody's talked about how good they are. I guess I'll read them and get caught up. And I was excited. And it was
Yeah.
such a letdown.
It's
And it
such
did
a
not make me
letdown.
want to continue. And I have zero ambition of ever reading another one of her books. And I will
Same.
say that's not a good attitude because sometimes the first book can be bad and then the second book can be good. You never know. But
It's true.
I mean, we had that happen with Tessa Bailey when we read Fangirl Down and Dream Girl
I mean,
Drama.
sometimes there's just not a winner, but
Yes.
I don't know. Like, if I disliked the main story so much, I don't have the desire to know any sort of prequel based on the book. If it's based on the movie, I love the ants. I love them. Like, let's have a story about them. Let's just skip that. Let's have a movie about them. So, or let's have a sequel to the movie with the daughter, you
Right.
know? I think that would be fun. Or the daughters, there's two.
So I
But
know
yeah,
that in the movie were there two daughters?
there were two daughters. Yeah,
There
she
were,
had two
okay.
daughters, a blonde and a brunette, just like the two of
Her and
the
her
sisters.
sister.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. I'm going to go with two more children's-ish books. And I hope you will agree with me because hopefully you've seen both of these movies. I mean, there's more than one iteration of both, but The Secret Garden and A Little Princess.
I've never read the books of either of those.
Okay. Have you
I've
seen the
seen The
movie?
Secret Garden. I have not
Huh?
seen The Littlest Princess.
Okay, A Little Princess, you need to watch it. It would, well, I mean, maybe it won't mean as much. They came out in the early 90s. These were like we were children. These were great for us. The Secret Garden, especially, I would say, is just so good. It's so well casted. If you don't know, Maggie Smith is in it. She plays a bad guy, but we
So
love her.
that was the only movie that my Granny Reese had at her house.
So did you watch it a bunch?
We watched it all the time. That was like the only movie we're like, okay, either go outside in the Tennessee 106-degree,
Or watch
1,000% humidity, or watch The
Mhm.
Secret Garden. I'll watch The Secret Garden.
I mean, I had a crush on, was it Dickon? I had a crush on him. Like, I don't know. I thought he was really cute. But you missed out on a Little Princess. So a Little Princess, the little girl who plays, I mean, she's like our age, Liesel something. And I think she does something with like a nonprofit. I looked her up several years ago because I was like, she was so beautiful. She also was in Air Force One. She played the daughter in that. But
Now
she was
that I've
just like,
seen.
so like her eyes were just so bright. I was like, I wonder what happened to her. But anyway, she's in that. And then if you've seen The Lost World Jurassic Park, his daughter is also in A Little Princess, and they are kind of two of the main characters. And the guy who plays the dad, what is he in that he's in Game of Thrones. Okay, have you watched Game of Thrones?
Yes, but not recently.
Okay, you know the guy that's like brothers to the king that got killed, Joffrey's like father, the brother that's like staking his claim to the throne, and then
So
his
not so Joffrey's real dad or his
fake dad,
fake dad.
his his
Okay.
fake dad that allows him to ascend the throne.
Mhm.
That one, his brother who like makes a claim for the throne. It's
Robert
the guy that
Baratheon. Okay.
and then it's the guy that works for him who's like his daughter with the burnt face like teaches him
The
how to,
dragon scale. She had
I
the dragon
guess,
scale face,
is that what it was? Okay. So she taught this guy how to read.
and he had the necklace with the bones.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't
I've
remember
read
the
the
movie.
books too, so
Okay.
I
So
think
anyway,
he
I
has
forget
like
what his name is.
yeah,
Sir something. I don't know what his name
but
is.
he was
Okay,
like
what?
a
But
ship
it's
guy. Like he
yes, I
was on the
think so.
water. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think so. So
I don't know who you're talking about anyway.
someone's screaming at our podcast right now. Anyway, the dad is in that because I'm like sitting there, I'm like, why do I know you? I know your voice. And so I looked him up and that's who that was. So, but anyway, it is, I mean, I also have seen, I don't know, did you ever see the Shirley Temple, A Little Princess? There's that one too. I think that one might be a musical version. But anyway, I mean, it's cute. I love Shirley Temple, but I love this one that came out in the early 90s. And I've listened to the audiobook of both of them, and I would say they're good. Like, I'm not saying they're not good, but the movies were just delightful. So,
So when I
anyway.
was a kid, we didn't actually have a VCR. We would
Mm.
we would go rent one
Oh my
because that was a
gosh.
thing. You could
It
rent
was a thing.
a VCR at Blockbuster,
Yep.
and it came in like this big giant suitcase apparatus. So if we were going to go rent a movie, we would have to go rent that as well. And so
Oh
we
my
didn't
gosh.
watch a lot of movies. Our TV, until I was, I think, 8 or 9, we had like maybe a 20-inch black and white TV.
Nice.
And then like it had the bunny ear things and
Yep.
all that.
Yep.
And then when I was like, I had to be 8, we bought a 32-inch color TV, and that was high class living. But I don't think we had a VCR at that point.
Amazing.
And
Amazing. I love it.
we did not have cable television or anything. We had the basic TV. So I miss some of these movies
Yeah.
and cultural things, I think, because we just didn't have that. That wasn't a thing. And I
No,
think it's totally
that makes
different now
sense.
where people can just like stream everything,
Yeah.
or you can find it on YouTube. Like my kids have watched so many things, and I'm like, I've never seen that. How did you see that?
Right.
But
Right.
just a
No,
different time.
that's fair. All right. What else you got?
So I'm going to bring one up, and I'm going off of the memory
Okay.
of what a friend told me.
Okay.
So this may not be accurate. You can be like, what? So,
Okay.
and you haven't read I don't think you've read the book or seen the movie
Okay.
because we were talking about it, but it's Train Spotting.
Nope. Haven't seen or read.
And I remember back in the day, this was like where Ewan McGregor got his big start.
Okay.
This might have even been before he was in Hackers. He
I
may
never
have
saw
been in
that.
Hackers first. Okay, so Ewan McGregor, I have a huge crush on. Have since I was
Love
like
it.
13, 14 years old, and he was probably like 25. Probably gross, but whatever. He was adorable. Train Spotting. The movie is what I saw first,
Okay.
and it's set in Scotland. They're heroin addicts, and their lives are really horrible because they're heroin addicts. And he decides he's going to kick the heroin problem. And it's all of him and his friends and their exploits, trying to get drugs, trying to stay clean. what they'll do to get the drugs, different things like that, and then what happens at the end. Really good movie. It's funny. It's just, it was perfect for me at the time, and I've watched it and it held up. They did make a second one probably like 2017, 2018.
Okay.
So it's supposed to be like 20 years later this comes out. Um, God, maybe that was 30 years later.
We're
Nothing
getting
like
old.
feeling old.
Nope.
So it might have been 20 to 30 years later at some point there. But because I think it came out in the like 95, 96 time frame. But the book, I remember sitting and reading with a friend. She had the book and she was trying to read it, but it's written in with like the Scottish accent.
Oh no.
So it's the slang Scottish. So trying to read it was very hard. And so I just remember reading it like a couple of pages, like maybe a chapter, and like
Uh-huh.
I don't even understand what happened.
Because you
Like
couldn't work through the
couldn't
spellings.
couldn't work through the spelling, the
Oh
way that they were
gosh.
talking. I was like, how do you even read this? It's
Yeah,
almost
no.
like I actually thought of this whenever we read James, because James,
Yeah.
whenever he's talking, he's speaking with, it's almost like a different language, some of the way that
Yes.
they're talking. And I was like, I wonder what that looks like on the printed page. And it made me think of this book because I was like, I remember trying to read that and having such a difficult time
Mm-hmm.
that I wondered how anybody actually got through it and got the
Yeah.
content. And Train Spotting, they have the Scottish accents
Mm-hmm.
and you can understand them, but there's even one character where it's really hard to understand anything he says, and they kind of make a joke about it, and it made
Yeah.
me think, so I'm 99% sure that's the book. It might be A Clockwork Orange.
Oh,
So I can't remember. That was what I was trying to Google before the episode, if it was Train Spotting that had the Scottish, or if it was A Clockwork Orange that had the weird vernacular or whatever. But I'm pretty sure it was Train Spotting, because A Clockwork Orange, I think that they just had like some code words or something like that. I can't remember. I remember the book being weird of that too. The movie's weird too.
all right. So I guess it's my turn. I guess I
Yeah,
should
I'm
go. Let's
I'm
go.
all I'm all fresh out of books,
Okay,
so
because
it's all you.
I have so many. I'm gonna go with two that I don't know. Maybe you will agree with me on this. I don't know that you've read these books, but we're gonna
Okay.
go with some Stephen King.
I've actually read some Stephen King and I've
Yes.
watched Stephen King, so we'll see.
Okay, what have you watched of Stephen King? That's what I need to know.
I'm really bad with names,
Okay, what
so
happened in
I
them?
know I know there was one that I think it was Stephen King, and they slept during the day and then they woke up at
Oh
night.
yeah, the
Skinwalkers?
Tommyknockers, maybe?
No, this was.
No, Tommyknockers isn't that. It's something I don't know.
And
There
maybe
is
it's
a
not even
vampire
Stephen
one.
King. I thought it was,
I
but
think
they
that's
have like
not.
they wear their skin.
I don't know. If it is, I haven't read that one. Maybe.
I've
Have you seen The
seen,
Shine with Jack
yes, I've
Nicholson?
seen The Shining. I have
Have
not
you
read it though.
Okay, have you seen Carrie?
I've seen Carrie, have
Okay.
not read it.
Those are the two that I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
So, I will tell you the book The Shining is fine. I reread it last year. It's a decent book. I will say the movie with Jack Nicholson, while like I guess true Stephen King fans who perhaps read the book first would be upset that it does not accurately reflect the book. I think it is just superior in all ways to the book. And I've read the book twice now because I had seen the movie. I grew up with the movie and then in college decided to read the book. And I was so unbelievably disappointed with the book that I was like, I do not like this. And so then last year, I decided, well, you're an adult. You can understand better than anyone. Like
Right.
you have more respect for things. So I reread it and I still maintain that the movie
It's
is
not
better.
good.
And it's not as good. And I think part of that is like I love Shelley Duvall. And I love Jack Nicholson, but Shelley Duvall, if you do not know about fairy tale theater that was on Showtime apparently, but I rented the movies from the library. That's where I saw them. And then I owned two on VHS. I owned The Little Mermaid and Rumpelstiltskin, which, by the way, both of those are way creepier in the endings than the stories that they tell little kids now. But I love Shelley Duvall, and I do know from all of my, IMDbing that she was, I mean, Stanley Kubrick like messed with her hard throughout the thing, like made her like terrorized her, and it probably impacted her performance to make it even better. And that does not excuse it. And then Jack Nicholson is just amazing, amazing. So I will say that. And then Carrie, obviously, Sissy Spacek is great, but her mom is just like so good. And there are other actors that are famous from that time. There's one like PJ Souls, who also is in Halloween, which I love the Halloween franchise too. P.S. Just side note. And I think it's the book goes off the rails at the end. Like if you think the movie goes off the rails, the book, like there becomes like electricity things involved, and it's just
So
like,
it's interesting. That was Stephen King's first book.
oh yeah, that's right.
So on writing his book that he wrote
Hmm.
about writing,
Yeah.
he talks about that and how he was working as a teacher and they lived in like a double wide trailer, maybe even a single wide. And
Hmm.
his wife had fished it out of the trash can because he was like, this is
Hmm.
garbage. And she like kept it going, kept submitting it back in the day whenever you had to submit paper copies and it probably cost money to print and all
Oh
that stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So just really, I thought that that was a cool story that it
It
still came
is.
about. And I enjoyed the movie. And I have to say, I think I like all of Stephen King's movies better than his books. I don't know what that's saying, but I've seen several movies and I like the movies, but I don't really enjoy Stephen King. And I've seen, um, I think it was called Needful Things.
I have not read that, but yes, that is one of his.
I saw it. They did like a mini series, I think, back in the
That sounds
these early
familiar.
2000s, and I really enjoyed that. So I have to say, there was one that was like it was like Through the Eyes of a Cat, like 9 lives, and it was all the cat's different lives that he'd lived.
So
And it was
crazy.
so good. And I think it was based off of a short story that he did.
I think it is. Because I think I can picture a compilation of short stories with a cat on it. And I
Yeah.
think that must be what it's from.
And it
Well, did
was,
you know
I loved
Children
it. Yeah,
well, did you know Children of the Corn is based on a short story by Stephen King?
really. So
And
he,
didn't we say Stand By Me was also based on a
yes, it
short
was a
story?
short story. He got his start by writing in, even as like a young teenager, he would write into magazines and different articles, different things,
Yeah.
all these different short stories, very short fiction. He even talks about like he would write into Playboy and he would get published in there, like all these things that now there's just not
Yeah.
that opportunity to do because the short story, short fiction, it just isn't as popular. So there's not a
Yeah.
huge market for it. Whereas back then there was more newspapers, more magazines, you had more opportunities to get published. And now,
Yeah.
unless you're really ready to write a novel, you're not going to get published anywhere. There's some
So
online
sad.
things like that, but you've kind of lost that
That's like,
medium.
I don't know if Wattpad is still a thing. That was the thing, like
Mhm.
on one of the early episodes. I was like, what is that thing called? And then it was either Nikki or Chris that mentioned it. And I was like, oh, that's the thing I couldn't think of.
I think it might have been Nikki because I had asked Nikki afterwards, like, hey, I want to start writing. If you don't
Yeah.
remember our episode, it was book worlds you want to live in or don't.
Mm-hmm.
And with our
Right.
guest host, Nikki Blake. And she was talking about different writing things and encouraging both of us to write. And I hit her up afterwards and was like, hey, I want to start writing again. I want to write something short, but I don't know where to go for it.
Yeah.
And she had sent me some places that you could do some like short fiction, you could submit it, but more than anything you had to pay, I think some of it,
Yeah.
like you paid $5 to enter it,
Okay.
which that's great, but who has the money to do all of that? But
No.
I was like, you could just take the ideas from those places and create your own short fiction. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
you have to submit it. You can just have fun with it. So that's what my goal has been the last couple of weeks, kind of playing
Love
around
it.
with that. So if you haven't listened to that episode with Nikki Blake, we need to have her back on because
We
she
do.
was super fun.
Yes. And
See what she's
I
up
will
to.
say, I have received feedback that people really liked that episode. So
So
shout
have
out to
I.
Nikki.
The
And
data shows.
the data shows. So yeah, I know. That's really cool. All right. Should I just list a bunch? And then if you have any feedback on any of them, then you can be like, I completely disagree with you on that. And I know you're going to disagree on this first one, In Her Shoes.
That book was so good.
It was good, but the movie's
And the
better.
movie was not. I remember
Tony
reading
Collette is
I
so
remember
good.
watching it and being like, I am so disappointed. And it had Cameron Diaz Like, I thought it was going to be so good because of the
Shirley
cast.
MacLaine.
Yes. And I was disappointed. And I was so disappointed that I was disappointed. And I think that's the only Jennifer Weiner book they made into a movie.
Yeah, it might be. But
And she's had some really good books. But
well, so in either way, we do not agree on that.
uh,
Austin Land, which y'all might remember that movie coming out a few years back with Carrie Russell, where she gets to go like live in like Austin times. It's like a vacation thing, and there's different packages, and so she gets to come as like a poor relative. And it is based on a book, and the book was cute, but the movie is so much cuter.
okay.
And then there actually was a sequel to that one. It wasn't made into a movie, but the sequel was not great. So yeah, Austin Land, The Devil Wears Prada. I don't know if you read that.
I think I read that. Like, I very vaguely remember it, and I remember enjoying the movie.
So here's what I will say. The first book was pretty, like, I kind of was like on the fence for the movie and the
Is
first
it
book.
series?
There's at
I
least
did
one
not know
sequel.
that.
The sequels go off the rails. So that's why I put that. Obviously, I have to bring these up, even though I haven't read either of them. He's just not that into you and what to expect when you're expecting. They are like self-help books, and then the movies are not. So the movies are like rom-coms. So of course they're better. To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I've only watched the first one, but when I read the books, I knew that they would be better as movies. Breakfast at Tiffany's, Gone with the Wind,
I've heard
Little.
the book is way different.
It's so different. She has way more kids. Little, and she's even worse. Little Women. I love the Little Women movies, and the book is delightful too, but I prefer the movies. The first Anne of Green Gables movie is better than the first book. Kiss the Girls, if you ever saw that movie, it's a book that's like what Alex something is the detective. So I would technically say that. And Along Came a Spider is the first one. And I would say both the movies of Along Came a
Is that
Spider.
Alex Cross?
Yes.
I don't
I
think
think,
I've read or watched
okay.
those.
I will say Morgan Freeman is way
Mm.
better than the way they write the character. And I will say Monica Potter in Along Came a Spider and Ashley Judd in Kiss the Girls do a better job than the way the characters are written in the books. And this is kind of funny because I thought about the Great Gatsby. I hate the book. I didn't necessarily love the movie, but the Leonardo DiCaprio one has an amazing like soundtrack of songs. I don't care about the background music, but I love the songs from it. There's like a Kanye West song that I love, and there's
And
a Jack
that's
White song on there that I love.
the thing about movies is that you have the music to go along with it.
Hmm.
And it's not
Definitely.
only like you're reading it, but you're also getting this auditory experience as well. And I
Yes.
wonder
Yes.
sometimes if they had like an audiobook but had the soundtrack playing in the background. If you
Movie.
had like the audible with, because I know that graphic audios are a thing, but if they
Hmm.
had the auto, like the regular book, the narration, but then also included some of the music and the soundtrack
Hmm.
and gave it more of like a movie feel where you're
Yeah.
hearing it and you're having these experiences. I don't know if that would take away from it because then you're hearing it kind of lightly in the background or what.
Well,
So
I
who
can tell
knows?
you, I have read Out of Africa, and I did put the movie soundtrack on like as background music while I was reading it a few different times, like when I was sitting there. So, and it was kind of nice. I think it depends on the music because I was thinking about that because we've talked about possibly reading Dr. Zhivago, and the music is so like booming. Like Laura's theme is kind of calm, but so much of it is very like in your face that I'm like, I don't know if it would. Okay, so another one, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, which
The
that actual
movie.
is, I know. So I read the book after I saw the movie. The book is like for middle grades. And
Well,
here's what
that's
I
how
will
it's
tell you.
billed as a movie. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, I'm not letting
no.
my middle grade child read that. Heck no. Or
Here's what
watch
I
it.
will say. There has been a lot of backlash about both the book and the movie because there was no house like that near Auschwitz. That was not a thing. And so this would have been completely implausible. And so while I appreciate the idea behind it, and I hate to say it, I really like the movie. I think it's very well acted and
It's
just the
I think it's a great movie. And I think the ending is so like
emotional and
good for the author, good for the
yes.
creator. I mean, why not show it that way?
Yeah.
I think
I
that
agree.
yeah,
It proves a point.
It
It proves
proves
that
a point. Would you rather, like,
yeah.
it's easy to hate someone
Mhm.
and be willing to kill them for that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the
I'm
book
all
was
verklempt as all verklempt.
I will tell you that the book is not as good as the movie. And then the next one is kind of, I think it's 3 or 4 books, The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I would say the first couple are really cute, and then it got real serious and real dark, and so
I
that
only
kind
read
of
the
put me off.
first book and I've watched 2 of the movies. I don't
There's
know if
I
there's
think
more than that.
there's only 2 movies,
Okay.
and I think the first movie especially is just
Mhm.
delightful, and I love that all the actresses are still friends in real life.
That's
Like,
the
I
part
love
that I
that.
really love. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was well done. And I remember reading the books. I know which summer it was. It was summer of 2007 because I remember it's so funny how I remember this. Like I said, my ex-husband was deployed. I only had one child. He was one, and I was trying to fill my summer. And so I went, which I often go to Austin to visit cousins. And so I went there to my cousin Leslie, who I've talked about, who that was what the texts were about earlier. And she was home from college. And so I was at her mom's house with her and took my son and like we went swimming and stuff every day. And then like when he was like at night, before I went to sleep, I was reading one of the books. And I remember just really enjoying them, like, they were really cute, but then they didn't stay cute. They got a little off. Another one, Interview with the Vampire. I love the movie. Did not love the book was okay.
The book was okay. I
The movie's
forgot
so
about
good.
that one. That movie
Yeah.
is so good, and the book, I did read that, and I read a couple of Anne Rice books, and they
Really? Oh,
were they
yeah.
were on that same, like, I
Did you
didn't
read
read, like, The Queen of the Damned. I did not read that one.
did you read The Witching Hour with us? And
No, I don't think so.
because we read The Witching Hour. I don't remember what the second one is, maybe
I
Talto?
read, isn't the second book about Lestat?
Oh, of the Empire. I'm talking about like The
Yeah.
Witching Hour. But yeah, no, I think
No,
you're
I
the
don't think I've read
vampire.
any of the Witching Hour stuff.
The first 2 were crazy. And I read half of the third one and then quit. The Vampire Lestat, I think that is the second one of the Interview with the Vampires, I think.
I think
Could be
I've
wrong.
read both of those. The movie, though, that is like a
So good.
classic. Like, that is a
And
movie that, now that I think of it, I'm like, that might be a movie that the kids could watch. I mean, it has some scenes because I think that anytime you have vampires, they try to mix
they're
sex with
sexualized,
blood,
yeah.
like,
I'm
whatever.
trying to think. I don't think there's like any explicit like they're like sucking on their necks. Like they're
Right.
not. So I think you might be right on that. I will say the one thing I did not love about the movie or the book is that like they usually drain them. Whereas I feel like in so many
Yes. Well,
vampire
because if they don't drain
iterations,
them, they can turn them. So you want to drain them because you don't
or
want.
if you just, well, no, like they have to have your blood too, I think still. But
Oh,
like
that's
if you,
right.
and so if you,
Yeah.
but I'm like, use them as a source, so to speak, and not kill them. But I feel like they killed everyone. And I thought it brought up a good point that then Twilight later hits on with like the children being turned and stuff. But it was so good, so good. And we had someone our age in it, Kirsten
Yep.
Dunst. Shout out in case you ever listen to
She
us.
was
We
a
love you.
little tiny child then.
And she held her own with
Yes, she was
Tom Cruise
amazing in
and
that movie.
Brad Pitt, and
Yes.
Antonio Banderas is in it too,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like she held her own. Like
Yes.
bravo to her, or brava, I guess is what would be the appropriate thing. Okay, I have a couple more. Circle of Friends. I don't know if you ever read the book
I
or
did
saw the
not.
movie.
I don't know if I saw
The
the
movie
movie.
the
Is
movie
that the one where they're in college?
in like Ireland.
Yes.
It's
I think I've seen the
many
movie a
yeah,
long time ago.
it has Chris O'Donnell
Yes. Okay.
and Minnie
Minnie
Driver.
Driver. Yep.
And oh my gosh, what's his
Which I
name?
read Minnie Driver's book, and that was a good book.
Really?
She did like an autobiography.
What? I just forgot his name. He hosts the Traders. Oh my gosh, what is his name? Alan. He's in it, and he's a bad guy. You don't like him in that.
I did not know
Alan
that that
Cumming.
was him. Okay.
He's in it. He works for her father in their store and then wants to like marry her and kind of attacks her. But anyway, so Circle of Friends and then Must Love Dogs. If you have not seen, I don't actually remember the book, but it says on Goodreads that I read it. But the movie has John Cusack and Diane Lane. And I just think the two of them are so delightful and
I
just,
love John
yeah.
Cusack. Yeah.
And I love her because she's in Under the Tuscan Sun, which is one of my favorite movies too. And then finally, I put a John Grisham, The Rainmaker. I love all of his books, and The Rainmaker is the one that was made into a movie with Claire Danes, Matt Damon, and Danny DeVito. And it's the Matt Damon, Danny DeVito part that makes it, because the book is really good, but the two
I don't
of
know if
them
I've seen that
together,
movie. Yeah.
my gosh, you have to watch it. It's good.
I do
It's
love a
good. Like,
John Grisham book.
I know, but like Danny DeVito and Matt Damon, it works. Like it does. And the story is really sad, obviously, because a lot of them are for him, like the characters. But yeah. Okay, and then I have to share this. Books I started but didn't finish and love the movies. We already talked about Forrest Gump, Lord of the Rings, and Wicked, because I actually started to read Wicked before
That
I
is a
ever saw the
great
musical.
example. I haven't seen the movie, but I saw the musical. The book is
Yeah.
horrible.
Oh yeah. Like I started reading the book before I ever saw the musical. I saw the musical in 2007 on the stage. I hate to say this, but when I went to the musical, I was shaking. I was so excited to see it and I was disappointed. I set myself up for failure. But I loved the first half of it in the movie. Like I loved it. Like I saw it in the theater. I was like, "Wait, we're already done." And then my mom gifted it to me, and so I own it digitally, and I already watched it, and it's just like it's just so delightful. It's
So I
unfortunate
have
the
a
second half
question.
is not as delightful, but we'll
The
see.
the book did have an orgy scene, correct?
I believe it did. I
Like they
didn't make
go,
it very far,
yeah. Okay. I'm like,
but
that
I
was,
think
I
yeah.
remember whenever that came out and they were talking about making it into a
Mhm.
musical. I'm like, is it gonna have that scene in it? Because
No.
that
No.
was,
Well, it's kind of like Stephen King and the
yeah,
children in
yes,
a
that
similar
part.
thing. That part, yeah. Okay, and then I also have movies I haven't seen, but I bet are better than the books I read. And I only have one, and that's The Hobbit, because I did read The Hobbit
Okay.
a long time ago. And just watching like the clips I've seen of the movies, I feel like it would be better than
And
because I this is what I feel like. The Hobbit is just like it feels fluffy when you read it. It's not dark. And so, like, when I started Lord of the Rings, I felt the same thing. But then I'm like, but the
it's not.
movies I feel are so dramatic, and I like that.
So I actually, I had gone back and forth about putting Lord of the Rings on my movies that are better than the book. And I even told my son, and he was like, but that's a classic, right? And I feel like J.R.R. Tolkien, whenever he was writing Lord of the Rings, he included so much description that when I was reading it, I would be like, okay, and I'm going to skim this part because I just got bored and there's such big books. And
That's how I felt like with The
I
Hobbit.
don't know if I've mentioned this on here, but I'm not a fan of the big book. Like you see those memes that like
You
I like big
haven't
books and I
mentioned
cannot
that.
lie. I do not like big books. That
Somewhere
is,
I have a mug that says that.
I am an anti big book person. I want 300 pages. That's my sweet spot. And I love fantasy, but some of it is just like, oh
So
my
long.
God, like, why are we still like,
I
I
mean, do you
understand they have to
see
world build and all this. Sarah J.
there's
Mass, prime example.
I
I
know.
remember someone let me borrow the book and they
Which
gave
these
it to
are the
me.
shortest ones of all of her books.
And I was just like, I am not reading this. This is like, it's too big. Like, I'm just not going to do it. And that is intimidating to me. And I think it turns me off from reading, like all these
Well, and
things.
these
So,
they have very tiny font. I can't read those.
yes. So, thank God for audiobooks because there's some books I probably would not have read if I
Mm,
had to read that. And I
yeah.
did read all of the Lord of the Rings trilogy and I enjoyed them. And
Yeah.
I feel like the movies did a great job of sticking to the source, like the original source content.
Hmm.
But it was one of those things where I'm like, the movies are just so good. I would
Hmm.
so much rather, like, that's my husband, like, his favorite movie to watch, like, over and over and over again is Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings. And I would so much rather watch the Lord of the Rings over and over and over again than read the books. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a huge book rereader, but that is something that I will probably never reread. Like, it's a one and done for sure. I did it. Check.
I mean,
Um,
that's fair.
not, I hate to say that I would put the movies better, but I think I would put the movies better.
The movies are so well done. I mean, they are phenomenal, and I haven't read the books. I started the first one, and it was just not what I was expecting having seen the movies. I was like, it's just because I saw the movies, then I read The Hobbit, and then I was
And The
like,
Hobbit is nothing like Lord of the
no,
Rings.
no, and it's like not dark at all. Like it's just kind of fluffy.
It's
And so
silly.
then it's silly. And then I tried to read Lord of the Rings and I was like, what is happening here? This is not what I was expecting. And that is nothing against J.R.R. Tolkien, whatever his name is, nothing against him. Because here, to be clear, like we know he was friends with C.S. Lewis and I love C.S. Lewis, but I've tried to read Mere Christianity, very dense. This is so funny. My mom brought this up recently because we're in the middle of Lent and I do observe Lent. And so does my mom. I was raised in a denomination that observes Lent. And there was one year that I was so excited. I found this C.S. Lewis where someone had compiled all these like short like essays by him or like little short readings. Oh my gosh. I lasted like 3 days and I was like, I cannot read this. Like it didn't like, and I say this as someone, like, I will not pretend to be a Bible scholar, but I have read the Bible all the way through 8 times in less than 10 years, as well as in multiple translations. And I could not understand what he was writing about. And I mean, that says something. So I want to say I love C.S. Lewis. And so like I respect J.R.R. Tolkien.
I don't know how to
whatever.
pronounce his name.
I mean,
I'm horrible with name pronunciation, so I'm very
it's
glad Claire
fine.
Sanoma had her name key
I
guide in
know.
there. I was like, yes.
It's okay. Part of me wishes it was Sandoval because it just made me think of Scandival and then Tom Sandoval, which if you haven't watched the most recent season of The Traitors is kind of his redemption story. So you should watch it. Not for him, but for everyone else. Anyway, so next week, what happens, Leyna?
We are going to be interviewing Claire Sanoma, just like Panama. I'm so excited. She is the author of Killer Story. So we are ready to dive into that book with her and then talk about her experience as being a field producer for 48 hours and 60 minutes, right? I haven't gotten to that part in the book yet, but I feel like it's coming. So she has a lot of stuff that is great to talk about. Yes. She also has her own podcast, Final Days on Earth. So you can find her there. She's on Apple, Spotify, all the usual suspects, or go read her book, Killer Story.
Don't forget to go to YouTube and subscribe to us because we're trying to unlock new features. So go ahead and go there. You're also going to want to go on Spotify and follow us there and rate us, give us that 5-star rating. Then hop over to Apple Podcasts and again, follow our podcast and give us that 5-star rating. And then you're going to want to go to Instagram and follow us and TikTok and follow us.
And we do post some really fun stuff. So
we do.
LJ finds these things and it just makes me laugh every time that I go, like, I'll post them on YouTube sometimes. Some of the ones that she posts on Instagram, I'll post on YouTube, and it just makes me laugh every time. So just know that if no one else is laughing, LJ, I'm laughing whenever I'm watching them.
It's okay. I laugh at myself too. I think I'm so clever. And so if no one else is laughing, I don't care. I'll laugh myself.
So please follow us. We love all of you. We hope that you have enjoyed our episode. And until next time, we'll see you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.